and welcome to day 6 of the sourdough starter tutorial. And yesterday we left off with having just fed our starters by using a new ratio. So we used the 1-1-1 ratio, which means that we used equal parts starter, flour and water, and we actually used 50 grams of each. So 50 grams starter, 50 grams of water and 50 grams of flour. If your starter was a little bit behind or a little bit sluggish, you're still on a normal just 12-hourly schedule, feeding schedule, that's totally fine. You want to just keep monitoring that starter, make sure that you get to know how it rises and when it starts to recede. Okay, so just be patient, it's fine, it's totally normal, they take their time. Some starters take 2 weeks, okay, so don't have a panic. Now, I also asked you to really closely monitor your starters. If you went to bed and you're only looking at your starters again this morning, that's totally fine. Just feed it and then try and monitor throughout the day and see how quickly your starter actually rises above your line, the elastic band line or the whiteboard marker line that you use, and how quickly does it reach the top before it starts to flatten out and then eventually start to recede again. So it's very important that you get to know the schedule, the cycle, the rhythm of your starter. Right, so this starter has been fed 4.5 hours ago. She hasn't yet started to collapse. So if your starters are behaving in the same way and you know that after about 4 or 4.5 hours it's risen to its prime level of ripeness, you know that this starter is now becoming predictable. You can actually start anticipating how quickly after a feeding it is going to rise, and it's also then important to start monitoring how quickly after a feeding it's going to start collapsing again. She's not going to grow or rise more than this. She's sort of stagnated here, and she's probably going to start slumping, start collapsing in on herself soon. And this is very important because I know that if I wanted to bake bread with this starter, I need to work backwards and feed the starter 4.5 hours, 4 or 4.5 hours prior to wanting to mix my bread dough. All right. Now, this is very important. Your starters might not be doing the same thing. They might be on a different schedule. They might be ripe after 5 hours or 6 hours. It really depends, but it really is so crucial that you understand the cycle, the schedule of your starter. I'm going to just continue on that cycle, and I am going to mix a bread dough with her tomorrow. So for those of you who have similarly active starters where you've noticed that they have a very predictable schedule, if you want to join in and mix a dough with me tomorrow, please, before you start watching before you start watching the video, make sure that you have a ripe starter. So work backwards, and by the time that you're ready to mix your dough, please have a ripe starter ready and waiting. Okay, so I'm not going to feed the starter in front of you guys today because you've seen this quite a few times already. You're basically just going to continue discarding, using your discard recipes, and feeding and monitoring and taking notes. You want to know your starter as well as you can, and that's going to give you very good bread. So without further ado, I would just like to say that if you are finding the content useful and interesting or beneficial, please do subscribe to the channel and also like the videos, comment, tell me what you think, if you have questions and so on. So I'd love to engage, and yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow, and we'll be mixing our first sourdough bread dough tomorrow. So stay tuned.